So yesterday we had a little bit of drone view. It used to be bird's eye view, but I think now we can progress with the times. So we had a drone view of the Ganges, which mainly concerns that part which is Aswapati's yoga. So today we'll take a little canoe and do a little rafting, go into the mighty Ganges and take a dip from here and there to once again get a feel of what this yoga is. As we know, Aswapati's yoga, that is part 1, book 2, book 3, are the experiences of Sri Aurobindo. We should preferably not use the word Sri Aurobindo's yoga because they are experiences of Sri Aurobindo and we are not told how he had these experiences. So, this part of the journey is much like the Ganges in the Himalayas. It is moving from one mountain peak to another. And while we can, if we are courageous and adventurous, we can take that course. But we don't know how Aswapati arrived at these experiences. So for that, the Ganges will come down into the plains in the Mother's Yoga and we will be shown what is the to-do things. But then, just to learn about to-do things has little meaning unless we understand the background. What is happening? It's the same thing like any practice of yoga. Practice comes later, but we must understand where is it leading us to, why it is there. Otherwise, I think the animals do asanas much better than us, but they don't realize the divine. But when we do something with the idea of realizing the divine, or whatever the goal may be, here it goes much beyond realizing the divine. So then, accordingly, we understand the essence and then the practice. So right now, Sri Aurobindo is taking us on a Himalaya darshan of the Ganges, and we'll take a dip from here and there, touching upon some of the main mountain peaks in the process. And without any delay, we have this in Book 1, Canto 3, the Yoga of the Soul's Release. One of the experiences, or even before that, there is a little... Okay, we'll talk about that later. So, self-realization, what is the sign? Anyone can say that I have realized the self. But what is the sign? What happens when you have realized the self? One of them is that there is a oneness. The Bheda Drishti goes away. This oneness is not sameness. This oneness is where in all the opposites, we begin to see the same divine presence working in different ways. So the struggle ceases. Normally we have a natural struggle from this to that, from world to God. But one who has realized the self finds the same self everywhere, and therefore the debate and discussion of life, the seeming contraries, they end. Beautifully described in one of the longest passages in Savitri, line, if you may say so. A vast unanimity ended life's debate. This is on page 32. The war of thoughts that fathers the universe, the clash of forces struggling to prevail, in the tremendous shock that lights a star, as in the building of a grain of dust. See the oneness? The hand that sends Jupiter spinning through heaven spends all its cunning to fashion a This is Samam Brahmam. In the drift of the galaxies and the movement of a little grain of sand, you see the same divine hand which is working, the same divine artist. The debate ends. Why? Because you realize that Krishna is not only on the side of Pandavas, he is also on the side of Kauravas. Only there he is doing one kind of action and here he is doing another kind of action. And therefore, in the end, regardless of anything, it is Krishna's victory. So this is something which the world is going towards the victory. The grooves that turn their dumb ellipse in space, ploughed by the seeking of the world's desire. That desire which is pushing things, the entire material creation, this way, that way. the long regurgitations of time's flood, we normally feel what a waste. Yugas and cycles and what a wasteful human life is it, or the life of earth. The torment edging the dire force of lust that wakes kinetic in earth's dullard slime. So people often ask that why divine creates attachment, then this he says go beyond moha. Why does he wake desire, lust, and then he says go beyond lust and desire? Well, as is the material, so is the method. So if we have iron, it has to be beaten hard. That's how Aurobindo says, wherefore God hammers this world so fiercely. He says, because the material is so hard, when it becomes more supple, he will just knead it with gentle hands. So all these things have their own place. That's what one sees. And carves a personality out of mud. This sorrow by which nature's hunger is fed. See, we want to get rid of sorrow. But we have to understand that in sorrow there is a hunger. Hunger for the infinite. That's why finite things ultimately end up giving sorrow. But it is not that so that we get dejected, disappointed, end up in despair. But we must understand what we are really hungry for. Our hunger is for the infinite. The east trust which creates with fire of pain, the fate that punishes virtue with defeat. Aurobindo is a realist. That's why when he was asked what kind of Vedanta is it, he said, well, if at all you want to call it, I may say that there are two kinds of Vedanta. One is the illusionist Vedanta and the other is a realistic Vedanta. So his is a realistic Vedanta. He doesn't close his eyes and say, no, there is no pain, no virtuous people are defeated because they did some bad karma in the past. Nothing of that. There is a wisdom operating everywhere behind all the anomalies of life. This is the lesson that one learns once one has realized the self. One can see this wisdom, knows this wisdom, the tragedy that destroys long happiness, the weeping of love, the quarrel of the gods, all these different great godheads, each one wanting his own empire to spread, and so sometimes they also quarrel. The quarrel of the gods, they don't quarrel like us because they quarrel in Sanskrit. Sanskrit is a very wonderful language. The other one wonderful language is also Tamil. There is a joke about it. So Amrita, he was born nearby. So one day Amrita clashed with somebody and the person says, Amrit, Sanskrit is the language of the gods. So he says, yes, that is true, but you have got it half right. What is half right? He says, Sanskrit is the language when gods speak to men, but when they speak between themselves, it is Tamil. Only Amrita could have these conceptions. All languages are languages of the gods, and most important is the language of the heart. But there is no doubt that if you look at, jokes apart, that Tamil and Sanskrit are the original languages because they both came from Shiva. So the roots are like that. When Shiva, it seems, with his right hand he did, then one language flowed. I am not going to say which hand. The left hand, then another one. From Shiva they emerged. Natraj, all the 14 original sounds from where the sounds came. So when gods quarrel, the quarrel of the gods ceased in a truth which lives in its own light. Then one understands. One doesn't start taking, one still takes sides like Krishna, but one understands the wisdom that is operating. It's not an ignorant taking side. Oh, mera jat wala hai, my... No, it's not like that. One sees the truth in its unfolding, the dharma at a given point of time, and then he is with the dharma. That's what dharma is. Dharma is not a rigid demarcation like those boring moral science textbooks that we read unfortunately in the schools about right and wrong. Dharma is something so wonderful, but this is not a talk on dharma. It's one of the most wonderful, amazing ideas among the many ideas that has come in Indian thought. And it's at the background of the Indian civilization. To understand Indian civilization, it's not enough to understand spirituality. It is equally important to understand dharma. But let it be for some other time. Seized in a truth which lives in its own light, his soul stood free, a witness and a king. So it is able to see as well as it is a master. Swami in the real sense, Swami. I am the master of myself. I have realized myself. So this is the experience, and what happens next is absorbed no more in the moment-ridden flux, where mind incessantly drifts as on a raft. Hurried from phenomenon to phenomenon, he abode at rest in indivisible time. Normally, our mind is just drifting. See, any conversation, half an hour, maybe 15 minutes, you'll start from one place, in 10 minutes, scatter mind. So, the ability to watch the entire trail of the wisdom that is unfolding itself. So, this is Aswapati, many more experiences. And little bit we are told here that he too, like us, because he is the protagonist of the human race, rises and falls, waxes and waning. But he realizes something, that every fall is a means for greater rise, only we should not deliberately fall, saying, okay, I'll rise greater after this fall. That is the difference. A yogi falls because it's part of the yogic journey as a default programming. But the other person is who deliberately falls. That is what is psychoanalysis. Then on book 1, canto 4, we'll take a dip here also, the secret knowledge. So this is a wonderful canto full of such profound revelations, some of which, of course, we may have read, those who are acquainted with Indian thought. But many which we have not read. For example, thus shall the mass transcendent mount his throne when darkness deepens, strangling the earth's breast, and man's corporeal mind is the only lamp. As a thief's in the night shall be the covert tread of one who steps unseen into his house. So, but there are many, many passages. But when we come to canto-wise reading, this is ultimately going to lead there, God knows when, which August camp or which one, but right now let me enjoy. So, everything is there. The mystery of God's birth in time, the Purusha and Prakriti, the difference, their oneness, the soul, which is a witness burning in the sanctuary in a tenebrous cloak. It knows the past lives, it knows the future script, everything is there. But let me read one of the most wonderful things that is like Sri Aurobindo's I would say, in the current times. This truth was known in far back Vedas, times of the rishis, but it's been lost and forgotten. So one of the work of the avatar is to bring out those secret truths. So one of these secret truths which we lost today is something very wonderful. On page 72, so he says, you want to escape, run away from Prakriti. You want to run away, escape into some home of nirvana. She will not let you escape till you have completed the errands and the course. There is no shortcut. If you think you have escaped just because you have gone to an ashram or just because you have had some experience, it won't happen. She is going to give us that course. 11th, 12th, it won't work out like that. There is a journey, there is a purpose, and that we will read. As long as nature lasts, he too is there. They are one, Purusha and Prakriti. In the highest truth is that even when he sleeps, he keeps her on his breast. So what is it? That he withdraws Prakriti into itself. When Prakriti is still, it is Purusha. When Purusha is flowing, it becomes Prakriti. So, but in the deepest essence, it is, they are one. But in movement, dynamics, in practically in life, we have to understand the distinction. There is a truth to know, a work to do. This is important. There is a purpose in life. It's not just moksha. As I said, if moksha is the goal, the whole creation would be absurdity. There is a truth to know, a work to do. Her play is real. A mystery he fulfills. Jagat Sat Brahma Satyam Namithya. Jagat Satyam Namithya. Why? Because this Jagata, the Gati, has emerged from the one Brahman. It is his Maya. That's why Aurobindo says that one of the places in one of his essays, you can't slay Maya. It is Sri Krishna's Maya. In the Gita, he says in so many words, it is my Maya, Trigunatmak Prakriti. It's my Maya. It's emerged from him. So you cannot slay Maya, but you can slay Moha. What we can slay is the ignorant attachment with which we deal with the world and become Jivan Mukta. But if you want to slay Maya, I'll dissolve all the forms and enter into some nirvana. It simply means when I close my eyes, the forms are gone. But are they gone? Just that I have shut my eyes. So that is why. And there are many other arguments, but we'll not get into that because this is poetry and not prose. See, this is the difference. People often say, oh, it is the same thing as in the life divine and other places. Well, I would like to say that, well, ultimately fundamental truths of Sri Aurobindo are the same, but there is a difference. In prose form, what is missing? The rhythm. You can create a rhythm. Some of Sri Aurobindo's lines in the Synthesis of Yoga have a rhythmic quality. It is called as prosaic poetry. But poetry, as such, is mantric by its very nature because it's based on rhythm. So the mantra is to be found in the poetry, and Savitri is the mantra of transformation. This is one. Second, it's the only book that Sri Aurobindo continued to work till the end, his end of the first half of the previous century. So there is no end as far as divine goes. But 2 weeks before 5th December, when he says he was so satisfied, apparently, if the word can be used for the divine, that, oh, that is finished. And he called Savitri as his most important work. And the mother went on to say, Savitri is the message, all else is a preparation. This is the final word of Sri Aurobindo, given in most sublime mantric form. So, this is how he reveals it here. He's not using logic. He is taking right the way the Gita and Upanishadic poetry is. It is not there to explain to us. For that, there is life divine. So Sri Aurobindo is not saying because of this, therefore people have done this, that. No. There is a truth to know. And he goes on further. There is a plan in the mother's deep world whim. Children don't understand why the mothers are doing what they are doing. And when they don't understand, finally what does the mother say? Grow up. When you grow up, you will understand. When you are my age, then you will understand. And this is so true. When you will become a mama, then you will understand. This is the ultimate trump card, no? So you don't understand. This ever she meant a purpose in her vast and random game. This seems random. Random because we see only a fraction. We don't see the hidden currents of logic and so many forces that are interconnected. There is a logic in it. It seems random. It's like something happens outside, Very beautifully once Einstein's head was struck by a tree when he was walking with a friend, and he stopped for a while. What happened? He said after a moment, the whole universe conspired to create this event. Now this is true. We don't understand because we see only when the event is finally. So we don't have the connecting links, the dots and dashes. So we say, oh, this is random. There is nothing random. That's what Sri Aurobindo. There is a meaning in each curve and line. What we call as random is our ignorance. Chance is basically our ignorance. All this is a language that fate itself, I don't know why it happened. So, coincidence, another ignorance. So, random game. This ever she meant since the first dawn of life. This is as I said, this project is not new. Project is old. Now the time has come. The first project, original project, Eko Ham Bahushyam, the one wants to become the many. Sri Aurobindo describes it in his own andaz, in his own way. This ever she meant since the first dawn of life, this constant will she covered with her sport. To evoke a person in the impersonal void. See, it's so beautiful. Sri Aurobindo uses what images? Covered by her sport. Now, sport normally we think is for winning and losing. Arey, this match somebody won, people do, satta. But what is a sport meant for? Whether you win or lose, you grow. You develop the sportsman spirit, you develop your muscles, you develop your stamina. This is the purpose. Success failure is our mistranslation of something which is profound. So he uses the word covers with a sport. How beautiful to see this life as a sport. Sometimes it's not your mistake, but the person on the side says foul. Red card. You're out of the game. Don't cry. This is a time to watch the game from the sidelines and enjoy it. There will be another chance. Zindagi milti hai dobara, tibara. Don't listen to all these things. Zindagi, you don't get life again. We don't believe in that. We believe many times we come. We learn from everything. So, with the truth light, strike earth's massive roots of trance, wake a dumb self in the inconscient depths, and raise a lost power from its python sleep. Is the Divine Mother, the Shakti which is sleeping in matter. That the eyes of the timeless might look out from time. Eyes made by time. These eyes, through these eyes, the timeless should be able to look out on the play. And the world manifest the unveiled divine. So divine is hidden, veiled. All this creation, this progression, this evolution, this journey of life, the rise and fall, the ups and downs, the successes and failures, the debates and quarrels and momentary quiet, quiet fronts are basically to manifest the veiled divine. How beautiful. So all this is revealed to us, and then yes, on Canto 5, we have beautiful experiences of Aswapati again. And as I said, he is seeking for something else. What is it that Aswapati is seeking? It is a new aspiration. This aspiration has never been there upon earth. What is this aspiration on page 76? A will, a hope immense now seized his heart. He has arrived at self-realization. He has seen all these secret truths. So what is it that Sri Aurobindo wants? Sri Aurobindo had already all his major realization. Major means what is considered as major before going to Pondicherry. And in Pondicherry, whatever that one realization which we may call Parabrahman, 1912, he writes to Motilal Roy, I can live for 18 hours a day in Parabrahman. So even that is gone. So what is he doing now? Now that is a time when he could have easily entered either into super moksha or simply taught what he had realized. But till 26 he doesn't accept disciples. Why? Because there is something else that he wants. What that something else is? A will. A hope immense now seized his heart. And to discern the superhuman's form, he raised his eyes to unseen spiritual heights. Why is doing it? Because in the void he saw throned the omniscient supreme. So that there is something else to come, aspiring to bring down a greater world. The glory he had glimpsed must be his home. A brighter, heavenlier sun must soon illume this dusk room with its dark internal stare. The infant soul in its small nursery school. See, all modern images. Mid objects meant for a lesson hardly learned. How beautifully it describes. This is a school of ignorance. We are playing with objects whose lesson we hardly learn. Why? In infancy, this is the kindergarten education. When we get all these objects of desire and we are playing with them, we think we are very big, but for the divine, okay, kindergarten is over. Now primary, then secondary, then higher secondary, then PhD. Mid objects meant for a lesson hardly learned, outgrow its early grammar of intellect. See, logic has certain rules, like grammar. So you ask those people who know the rules of logic. They say, no, this is not logical. Why? Because it doesn't follow the rules of logic. Deduction, inference, indirect inference, lot of things at one time out of interest, I had learnt all these rules of logic. Because you think becoming a logician is... Then you realize neither life, nothing runs by logic. So what is that the divine is using? He is using a different kind of logic, which we don't understand. So the grammar of the intellect we must outgrow. And its imitation of earth nature's art. Its earthly dialect to God language change. In living symbols, study reality and learn the logic of the infinite. There is another kind of logic. As we read, which punishes virtue with defeat and destroys long happiness. There is a logic which is operating. In the mighty mother's random whim, there is a deep purpose. So we have to learn that. But what we do, hastily condemn God. Why? Oh, you're not satisfying my logic. There are people in the world like that who will say, we stand for democracy, but if democracy elects a leader who is not according to their choice, they start saying this is not democracy, this is a fallacy. Elementary logic. Democracy you believe in, it has elected a leader, that's the end of the story. So, it is. People I'm sure are getting what I'm hinting. But you don't take devil's name in a beautiful place like this. But this is the whole thing. When we see world not running according to our idea. So what do we say? Oh, God doesn't exist. Or, He is very cruel. Or sometimes we don't want to say that. So we say, my karma. What can we do? Something happened. But there is something else which is happening, which is operating, which we need to understand. That's what Aurobindo is describing here. And learn the logic of the infinite. The ideal must be nature's common truth. Why do we keep saying God is inside, but nobody experiences after long journey? Thousands of people, as the Gita says, out of thousands, one seeks perfection, and out of these, rare is the soul who sees the one divine everywhere. Samahatma Chadurlabha Vasudevam Sarvamiti. Why should it be? On the contrary, it should be the most natural thing. That great poet says, Tu ek gorakh dhanda hai. Gorakh dhanda. I don't understand your ways. You suddenly put a saint on the suli. And suddenly you give the throne to Murak Raj karat hai, Pandit Firat Bhikari. Udho Karman ki gati nyari. Ujjwal pankh diye bagule ko. That fellow is a scoundrel. He is cheating. Koyal ke hi vidikari. Thank God, but I'm just on behalf of God. If she was not Kali, people would have missed a voice. Everybody gives something or the other. But that is a different thing altogether. Ideal must be nature's common truth. The body illumined with the indwelling God. Why should He be so hidden that we can't see Him? The body must change. It must become a translucent lamp. That's the experience Mother and Aurobindo had. And they want this experience should be everybody. Enough that we keep hearing from the age of the Vedas and before, they speak of the forefathers, that God is within. Okay, we understand. But why is He hiding? So all this He explains in Savitri. The heart and mind feel one with all that is. Why is it that our heart and mind are running in one direction and the will of the divine seems to be running in another? A conscious soul live in a conscious world. So this is the mighty aspiration. This is the solution Aurobindo is searching for all of us. He doesn't want everybody to now for generations again engage in big tapasya, find the God within. That is old story. He wants something higher, better. God should be our most natural state. So this is where we see first part of his yoga ends, because now for this will, it cannot be done by an individual. It has to be by the group. Individual will do it. But it is like changeover of one species into another. So you don't have a isolated gorilla changing into man. It has to be group. So of course, in that group of monkeys who evolved into human beings, there would be forerunners like Hanuman, Angad, Nal, Neel. Also, they will include some Jambavant, the different animal kinds. But all other monkeys must be given a chance. So Ram says, you also come. Did he need them? No, he didn't need them, frankly speaking. Between the two brothers, they sorted out all the three. The rest was done by Hanuman. Frankly speaking, they didn't need anyone. But okay, let all the monkeys come. So we see with Krishna. Alone he is sufficient unto himself, but he says, Gwal Bal, come, come, come. Later on, he gives his Sena to Duryodhana. He says, do what you may. Ultimately. So that is why it should be common truth. Mankind must be prepared to receive it. Hence, therefore, he has to renounce the individual realization, because then there will be such a big gap that none of us will ever be able to catch up and reach. And therefore, we see the book of the Traveler of the Worlds, where I'll just read just one or two cantos, a couple of passages. For instance, this is on page 163. See, everything we just pass on to karma. So, karma is there, nobody denies. Karma is a machinery. But every little thing is not karma. There is a play of forces which we need to understand. So that is described so beautifully. And we can just read a few lines on page 162. The Godheads of the little life. And here it describes us in this nether life of man, drab-hued and dull, yet filled with poignant, small, ignoble things with which he allures himself. Small, ignoble things. And he thinks that this is something exciting, but it's a dull, drab life. The conscious doll is pushed 100 ways and feels the push, but not the hands that drive. So we are pushed, impulse, thought, speech. Oh, let's do this, suddenly on an impulse. That's why always in yoga it's better to just step back for a moment, few moments, then speak. Look inside, reflect. This is a basic practice in yoga. Agents of darkness, imitating light. Spirits, now this is important, imitating light. Spirits obscure and moving things obscure, unwillingly they serve a mightier power. Ananke's engines organizing chance. Ananke we know is the Greek goddess of ultimate, if you may use the word fate, which can finish everything. Channels perverse of a stupendous will, tools of the unknown who use us as their tools, invested with power in nature's nether state. Into the actions mortals think their own, they bring the incoherencies of fate. You see, these agents of darkness imitating light. Recently, if you have seen yesterday, in the name of the Sikh gurus, great Sikh gurus, people are brandishing sword and attacking, and what kind of language. I am sure Guru Nanak Ji would run away seeing this state. He would weep that these are people for whom I came on earth. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji, who never started the five so-called, after 170 years, there was nothing of these signs of what can be called as Sikh. And yet, these are the people who are imitating light. And people are running after them. And yet, unwittingly, they will serve a purpose. That is the interesting part. But they are the ones who organize the incoherencies of fate. Everything is going beautifully, they will come and put a spoke. So all this is happening And so he goes and then he enters into the night to see who are these fellows who are below. And for those of us who despair in the night and say, Raat bahut andheri hai, why God created. So Sri Aurobindo goes right up to the end. This is another part which we find nowhere in any yoga. He goes right to the end. What is there hidden inside? Is there anything like eternal hell or eternal damnation? He says no. Even right into the depths he sees that being, sleeping in the inconscience, the first avatar, which the experience which mother had. So this we'll read a little, page 229. There is a description which when we come to the canto we'll speak about it. But here, there in the stark identity, okay, before that, page 231. He sounded the mystery dark and bottomless of the enormous and unmeaning deeps whence struggling life in a dead universe rose. There, in the stark identity lost by mind, he felt the sealed sense of the insensible world. There is a script which is there. This is the story of Hagrid. You see, the Vedas are swallowed by the Asura and they are hidden in the depths of the ocean. What is the ocean? Subconscious. They are lost in the deeps. But yet, see the beauty of the story. The Vedas are there. And the Asura goes, he wants to destroy. He can't destroy. Because the Vedas are not just books, they are the secret truth. And therefore, they are rescued by the avatar of Vishnu as Hagrid and he finishes the Asura. It's a very interesting story, many of these stories, but hidden in the subconscious. Now, of course, something interesting happens to the Asura who tries to swallow them also. So it explodes in the next life. He is the one who apparently wrote the fourth Veda. Because, he had swallowed it to hide it. Nobody else will ever get it. But Vedas are Vedas. They are power. It imploded. And in the next life, he comes back as a bhakta. So that's why there is hope for everybody. And also a meaning from this. See, he swallowed the Vedas to finish it. But he was finished. His asuric tendencies were finished and he was. So read Savitri even if doesn't understand. So because it's going inside like capsules. We don't explain, no, when we write capsule, moxclav. Even if we explain it is amoxicillin plus clavulinic acid, 500 and 125. What does it carry any meaning? No. But it will have an effect, that we can tell you. So reading Savitri will have an effect because it's a capsule not only of light but mother's love. So he sees, what does he see there? He is into the abysmal secrecy he came where darkness peers from a mattress grey and nude and stood on the last locked subconscious floor where being slept unconscious of its thoughts. So this is the first avatar from whom the creation is emerging. There, in the slumber of the cosmic will, he saw the secret key of nature's change. That script is there deep inside. That's what you have to unfold. This script that run away from creation is our intervention because we cannot stand the problem, the struggles. It's like somebody who enrolls for becoming a football player or cricket player. This is something I can relate with. Till my high school days, I played fairly good cricket, or so I thought. Till somebody said, okay, maybe do you want to try for the whatever trophy used to be there. I said, okay, very confidently. I stood and there was a very good bowler who used to bowl for the state. I was in the school. I was very proud. He bowled left-hander. It was an off-spin and it was so fast I couldn't see and the wicket was gone. So I braced myself. No, this cannot be. Second ball, the wicket was gone. I said, what is this? I said, all my How can it be? I have been playing so well. I never played this kind of a game, no? So he is a state player. I am a school team. You feel you are a big man. Third, gone. So I said, I think I should concentrate on table tennis. That's easy to manage. I picked up the passion later, but it was in medical college. Yeah, it's so easy. But state level, see, this is how we quit the game. So we have to have the patience and perseverance. Of course, if that was the goal, one would have the patience and perseverance. So there he found the original will. What does he discover? So beautiful. He saw in night the eternal's shadowy veil, knew death for a cellar of the house of life. In destruction felt creation's hasty pace, knew loss as the price of a celestial gain, and hell as a shortcut to heaven's gates. Disclaimer, it doesn't mean choose hell to go. Mother wants us to walk the sunlit path. But if perchance our feet have wandered through hell, know that God has decided to take us through the shortcut. You see, all shortcuts are always bumpy roads. I have learned this. So when people say shortcut, no, it's okay. We can go through the normal road. Normal road is the road. But shortcut, no, ultimately we'll go to the same place. So what a assurance it is. And see here all modern images. Just to... Then in illusion's occult factory has come. And in the inconscient's magic printing house, tone were the formats of the primal night and shattered the stereotypes of ignorance. So this is what he does. And then we have this passage, I believe it describes Savitri very well. That's why this is the beauty of Savitri, that he has not only soared above and brought truths, he has gone into the pit, known what is there and linked the two. That's the magic of Savitri. That's why Savitri is so very, not just precious but priceless. Because nowhere we find this mystery. The Vedas speak about these four asuras, Vala, Pani, etc. But here he describes them also. But here we have, where do they come from? What is there at the depth? What is this resistance of the night? What is this Vratrasur trying to block the city, taking the city by siege? So page 232, and I think this is my own feeling. This is what Savitri is about. The skillful penman's unseen finger wrote his swift, intuitive calligraphy. Earth's forms were made his divine document. Aurobindo reveals us the Veda in every form of earth, every aspect of life. The wisdom embodied mind could not reveal, in conscience chased from the world's voiceless breast, transfigured were the fixed schemes of reasoning thought. Action of Savitri, arousing consciousness in things inert. As I said, even if somebody is unconscious, deep sleep, play Savitri. If it doesn't want to listen, like sometimes then put it on the lowest volume. It has this effect. And I know it by experience of so many people. It works like, its vibrations are like that. Just play Savitri. One of the simplest ways, mother says, one of the best ways, you are depressed, my child, open any page. It's magic. Just open any page randomly. Or play in the atmosphere. If not, even if mother has made it even easier, like mother, no. Children will not eat the food, so she takes it and puts it in our mouth. So the action is arousing consciousness in things inert. He imposed upon dark atom and dumb mass, even on the body and the cells, the diamond script of the imperishable. The diamond script of the imperishable. Inscribed on the dim heart of fallen things, a pained song of the free infinite. So we have, Gita is the song of the divine. This is the song of the infinite. So you can't put it like a logical, finite process. Like in Gita, you see the argument builds up logically. There is question and there is answer. In the Vedas, you have experiences which form a kind. But how Savitri goes through entire Himalaya Darshan and the Akash Ganga and Patal Ganga and everything. And the name, foundation of eternity, the name, Naam, that is automatically there in Savitri, that vibration, and traced on the awake, exultant cells, the cells which are bathing in that atmosphere, in the ideographs of the ineffable, the lyric of love that waits through time. This is what I feel Savitri is about. It is the story of love, but lyric of love, poetic way. But what love? Not love which just, okay, today, hi, tomorrow, bye. This is the original love. It waits through time, never leaves, never abandons. And the mystic volume of the book of bliss, the volume which had not yet seen the light of the day, mystic volume of the book of bliss, and the message of the superconscient fire. Pragya. Why he is using the word superconscient? Because it's not yet manifested. So Savitri is the message of the superconscient fire, which is going to manifest upon earth. The script which is yet hidden, he brings that this is the plan which will be activated. And this part we will close with little passage from Book 3, Canto 2, where he finally arrives through all the journey, where he is face to face with the Divine Mother. She shows him what the new creation will be. The description is there, but we'll just read a little passage. He finds the secret ultimately, which can bring out the truth which is hidden below and the truth which is above, and join the two in human beings. Because she is the bridge who can do that. We see this on page 314. Then we'll take the break. A burning love from white spiritual founts annul the sorrow of the ignorant depths, the remedy for all depression and despair. Suffering was lost in her immortal smile. Just look at her smiling picture. At the head she stands of birth and toil and fate. In their slow round, the cycles turn to her call. Alone her hands can change time's dragon base. This is her mandate. Whether we like it or not. People say it is the same, yes. But in the twin avatar, Sri Aurobindo represents the ascending element. Whereas the Divine Mother is the answering grace. This is how it is. Why? Because it is she who has gone forth into creation. Pragya Prashrato Purano. It is her wisdom that has built the world. She has the Shakti to change it. Therefore, turning to the Mother and opening to the Mother is the key to this yoga. Alone her hands can change time's dragon base. Hers is the mystery the night conceals. She is the one who has gone there, hidden in the depths of the night. The spirit's alchemist energy is hers. She is the golden bridge, the wonderful fire. The luminous heart of the unknown is she. She alone knows what is hidden in the heart of the Supreme. A power of silence in the depths of God. She is the force, the inevitable word, the magnet of our difficult ascent, the sun from which we kindle all our suns, the light that leans from the unrealized vast, the joy that beckons from the impossible, the might of all that never yet came down. All nature dumbly calls to her alone, to hail with her feet the aching throb of life, and break the seals on the dim soul of man, and kindle her fire in the closed heart of things. Just to keep a picture here, her feet here, or even to imagine her feet on her heart, and to rest, to sleep, or live like that. And finally, because she is there, what is the ultimate destiny? All here shall be one day, her sweetness is home. We may not understand it, we may see the appearances and feel everything is contrary, but she is not only the alchemist energy, she is the word from above, she is the mystery of the night. Nothing can eventually, at the end, happen except what she has willed and foreseen in her ultimate vision of truth. So, all contraries prepare a harmony. Today we fight. Tomorrow, like after the end of Mahabharata, they are friends. So, all contraries prepare her harmony. Towards her our knowledge climbs, our passion gropes. In her miraculous rapture we shall dwell. Her clasp shall turn to ecstasy our pain. Our self shall be oneself with all through her. What is required from our side? Once seen, his heart acknowledged only her. You can't ultimately. Nothing else can satisfy. Nothing else can make you feel the longing, because ultimately you have seen and tasted that. So even if momentarily here or there you go, you cannot, because once seen, his heart acknowledged only her until you see her in everything and everyone. That is the whole thing. Then you will see her in everything and everyone. You won't see all this outer things. Only a hunger of infinite bliss was left. All aims in her were lost. Then found in her. His base was gathered to one pointing spire. And this passage continues toward the end. Again, as I said, time to time you'll see a stream merging from the Upanishads. So Upanishad says, Na yamatma na pravachane na medha na bahuna shrutena yamaveshe vranute tena labhyas tasyesh atma vivranute tanuswam. By much discussion, debate, that's why I'm so much not in favor of these conferences and seminars where you have number of speakers and speaking. It is most useless exercise. Spiritual things are never ever revealed like that. You can have a person, call him, let him speak 1 day, 2 day, and let there be questions. This kind of things where there is khichdi, this is not the way, because it only creates confusion. I've seen people at the end of the day, they're confused. This speaker said this said this said this, ultimately. So somebody asked which is true. I said, you figure out. It's not long back. I stopped. I said, this is not my responsibility. You figure out who spoke truth, whether everybody spoke a bit of truth, and then you have to make a picture by joining the jigsaw piece. It's never a way. So here we have. So this is what the Upanishad says. Na yamatma pravachane na medha na bahuna shuten. By listening to many people from here and there. So, what is the way? This light comes not by struggle or by thought. It doesn't come if you read too many books. Read only Mother and Aurobindo, this is enough, or just Savitri. You cannot. People want to read so many books and believe they are becoming wiser. Most of the time we become more and more foolish, because instead of any original, there is this age when you read books. But there is an age when you put it away and say, you want to discover. Take that flame and discover. And with that fire you seek, reflect. Then something of the light begins to grow. This is how it happens. There is a stage when you read books. But anyways, mankind is so strange. Sometimes people even now give me books. Some author, somebody. I have read all of Mother and Sri Aurobindo's books and everything related to them. Why would I read some author somewhere random speaking about this or that? Who has the time besides? But this is how the world runs, as if knowledge comes from books. Knowledge is not in books, knowledge is inside. Nothing can be taught. But there are books which can open the door to knowledge. This is what Sri Aurobindo's books do. Whereas there are books that will hover around, but never, they don't know the door actually. They'll hover around everything. And if they see the door, they don't know the mantra, like Ali Baba Chalis Chor, through which you enter. Now, how long can you hover around? You want to enter and see the khajana, the treasure. That very few books can do. That's the beauty of the Vedas, the Upanishad, the Gita, and of course Sri Aurobindo's books and now Savitri. They're a different genre. They are not coming from thought. And people have the audacity to say Carl Jung said this and, Nietzsche spoke on similar terms or something. I say, if they ask me, I say, throw them out of the window if you want knowledge. I mean, I have read all these people, respectable people. But that's not how one arrives at wisdom. This light comes not by struggle or by thought. Or how does it come, sir? In the mind's silence, the transcendent acts. The only thing these books can do is that at the end you get so thoroughly bored of beating around the bush. That's why in seminars most people sleep. Everybody is coming and saying one thing, two things, sometimes long. True spiritual wisdom should awaken people. It should not make us sleep. Of course, God is happy even if you make some people sleep. At least you have done some good work. So when there is inner silence, the transcendent acts, and the hushed heart hears the unuttered word. So when the heart strings, the Upanishad says in different way, Chandogya Upanishad, I think, Bhedyante hridgranthi chidyanti sarvas sanshaya. When the heart strings are rent asunder, then all doubts vanish. What are these heartstrings? Attachments. Not just to people. That the most... Immediately we want to cut off from people. Attachment to opinions. Attachment to ways of life. Attachment to preferences. Things should be like this or like that. All these heartstrings. They are like a veil. Preferences, opinions, this, that. You have your own opinion. When you have to vote, you will exercise it. But don't start taking opinion. You should have an opinion based on... Opinions are different. They are just like based on all things which are flying around. Information. But you should have wisdom. Then you make a choice. Choices have to be made. But there is a difference between opinions. Preferences for this opinion, that opinion. So Sri Aurobindo doesn't do that. That's why many people can't understand Sri Aurobindo. Because they have two opinions. And I have met people who are so opinionated. Oh, Sri Aurobindo says this, but according to so and so, according to so and so. For a moment, who is this according to so and so? But people have the audacity, but well, they remain where they are. And then finally, a vast surrender was his only strength. A power that lives upon the heights must act. Man cannot by his own efforts transform himself. Bring into life's closed room the immortal's air and fill the finite with the infinite. This is not enough. There comes now the real master surgery. Not laser surgery, but a real surgery. All that denies must be torn out and slain. Now comes Kali's action. Now he is again not talking of people or persons or situations. Inside, ego, desires that deny the claim of the divine upon our life. It's all an inner surgery. This denial is not outside. As the mother says, all obstacles lie within us. All that denies, the greatest denial is by the ego. All that denies must be torn out and slain and crush the many longings for whose sake we lose the one for whom our lives were made. So world is there, we are in the world, but we should not belong to the world. We should not live for the world. We should live for the divine. That's the whole secret. Being in the world but not of the world, as it is said. Now other claims had hushed in him their cry. When does this light awaken? When all other claims hushed in him their cry, into his heart and mind and breathing, only he longed to draw her presence and power. This is the stage one can call the force. Before that, give. That's what the mother says. Don't try to draw the force. This is a long journey when Aswapati is saying so. There is a process. He goes through hell also. Descends into night, experiences words of falsehood, paradise, rational mind, greater mind. Then comes this stage. And in this stage, what happens? Only he yearned to call forever down her healing touch of love and truth and joy. Not only for my disease and this disease, but for all. This is the suffering of this world. It suffers because it doesn't feel the divine love and the divine light and the divine power. It shuts itself. And not only shuts, puts bolts and nuts and I won't let light and love enter in. Because one glimpse is enough. A little, even if the doors are left a little ajar, that light will flood and change everything. So Aswapati is doing it on our behalf. Because we shut the doors, Sri Aurobindo is doing it for us. Only he yearned to call forever down her healing touch of love and truth and joy into the darkness of the suffering world. And then what happens? His soul was freed and given to her alone. See these two movements? Freedom. But the only freedom possible, true freedom, is to identify with the divine and belong to the divine. There is no other freedom. So his soul was freed and given to her alone. So in all states, in every situation, circumstance, with everything, one belongs to the divine, lives for the divine, loves the divine, serves the divine, becomes the divine. So we meet tomorrow with the Ganges of Savitri's yoga on the plains. This was the mountain Ganges. So landscapes are very different. It's much easier to connect with Savitri's yoga because now the Ganga is from Rishikesh, Haridwar to Varanasi. Namaste.